Our first guest, well, let's see, he's done a lot of music composition, you could say. He's done music for the shows Donna Reed, The Monkees, McCloud, Quincy, Switch, Hardy Boys, Buck Rogers, Knight Rider, The Fall Guy, and Battlestar Galactica. He's also done the score for a film called Simon, King of the Witches. How many people have actually seen that one? And so join me in giving a big hand and welcoming Stu Phillips. You get your sign, sit on down. Our next guest is a writer and story editor. He has won the Emmy and the Peabody Award, apparently multiple times. At least that's what he's trying to convince me. He has written and story edited for such shows as The $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, Gemini Man. Anyone hear of that one? Yeah, okay, cool. He's also worked on story editor for a show called Mask, not The Mask, but Mask with periods. Anyone hear of that one? Boy, you watch way too much television, guys. He's also the executive story editor for such shows like Spiral Zone, X-Men, and Exo Squad. Please join me in welcoming Terrence McDonald. He also did a show called Battlestar Galactica, but we never heard of it. Oh, gee. Well, our next guest I know very little bit about. I'll just make it short here and real quick here. She played Lieutenant Sheba on Battlestar Galactica. Please welcome Anne Lockhart. That's all I need to say. Oh dear, I've lost the card here. Okay. Now I'm going to really build up the suspense on this one. Our next gentleman replaced Michael Douglas in The Streets of San Francisco. He appeared on All My Children for 3 years, playing the role of Philip Brent. Let's see, he will be appearing in a film upcoming called Renaissance, which is a psychological thriller about a painter and talks about the agony and ecstasy of art. Should be interesting. He's also going to be appearing in an future episode of Baywatch. Please join me in welcoming Richard Hatch. We'll begin by letting each of our guests talk about themselves. Please, again, you're welcome to photograph, but please, no flash photography. And then we'll open up for a question and answer period. If you do have a question, go ahead and line up there by the mic, and we'll take you as the guests are ready for you. Thank you.
What did you want to do now? Oh, me? Okay, everybody knows my name. He told you what I did. I don't know what else to do. I'd rather answer questions if you have questions for me. That's more interesting. Gives me a direction to go. You want to know what did I do on Galactica? I composed the music for it. What else would you like to know? How long did it take? 3 days. Why did it take 3 days? Because he had to rewrite it. Why did he have to rewrite it? Because the producer said he had to rewrite it. Why did I get 3 days? Because they had to reshoot it. Why did they have to reshoot it? Because the producer said they had to reshoot it. And then he had to rewrite it so they could reshoot it. The composer generally is the last person on the list in everything, features or television. Mainly in television, he's always the last person. He gets to, whatever time is needed is given to the writers, given to the actors, given to the directors, given to everybody. It sounds like a big sob story I'm saying now. I'm not looking for sympathy, I'm just telling you what it is, the way it is. And the composer is the one who has to sacrifice the time. And you have a choice, you don't have to do it. I chose to do it, and deadlines are something that's part of television. The TV guide says it will be on the air on Saturday, and by God, it will be on the air on Saturday. And nobody wants to say that we'll preempt it with something else. That's a kiss of death. Although nowadays, you never know when anything's on, do you? It's on Tuesday, it's on Thursday, and then we have an extra special one on Friday. That's about what I can tell you. I mean, you have any specific questions? You all know that the Los Angeles Philharmonic played the original pilot, which was the first time in television that a symphony orchestra had ever played a theme or a score to a television show. There were a few firsts in Galactica. That was one of them. Any other shows we can talk about? Knight Rider, I guess, would be the only other show I did that's in that category, or Buck Rogers. Knight Rider was one of the first shows, or if not the first show, that had synthesizers on the main title. What else? Buck Rogers. I only did the original movie of that. I didn't do the series. That's enough about me. I think it's time for Terry to tell you something of how all these things get started, so I get a picture that I can write music to.
My partner, Jim Carlson, who unfortunately isn't here this afternoon, and I did 3 episodes of Galactica. We story edited from, I think, episode number 7 till the end of the series. We did an episode called Fire in Space, which, if you hate, we originally wrote a completely different ending for, which I'll tell you about if you're interested. Murder on the Rising Star and Take the Celestra. We also rewrote a couple of scripts, and there was one that we actually wrote that didn't get produced for whatever reason, because it was a lot of fun. It's interesting on the panel here because you've got Stu, who dealt with the show after it was completed, basically. You've got Ann and Richard, who dealt with the show on the set, and then you have me, who dealt with the show in the office, where all the different changes were going on. So if you have questions, I'll be delighted to regale you with numerous stories if you're interested. Just go up to the mic when we're done. Annie?
Hi. I'm not really good at starting this stuff out.
You need a script.
Yeah. Except I think it's really interesting that Stu had 3 days. Sometimes we had 5 minutes. Literally. They would run down with pages and say, well, we're reshooting this now, and even though you shot this yesterday, you're going to do it again, and this is what you're going to say this time. And there were actually times, there's one scene that I remember vividly, and I can't remember what show it was from, but we were all sitting around a table in the lounge, and there were pages stuck here. I can remember there was a post here, and I can remember Herb Jefferson going, well, I think, you can still see him do that, and we're all kind of doing this, sort of looking around for where we had scotch taped and glued these words all over the set. So 3 days is kind of luxurious to get to do something.
I had a ray gun,
shoot, I don't know, it's nice to be here. It's really nice to see all of you. Battlestar Galactica was a very wonderful and special time in my life, and I have friends that I made during that period of time that are still my friends. And I've done some other things. I worked on Knight Rider, too, and Buck Rogers, and a few other science fiction shows. And I don't know, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, too, and this guy talks better than I do, so it's your turn, Richard.
How quickly we move down the line here.
Just throw it along.
Yeah, we, in terms of lines, we should probably wait another 30 seconds because I'm sure that Glenn Larson will be sending them in. That's really how we got them. Somehow, some way, that show, which would take sometimes 10, 12 days to film per episode, we wouldn't get the lines until the last moment, and they just kept coming. We never knew what we were going to say until we were saying it. I remember one show where I had many meetings with the writers and the producer and Glenn and his limousine with the shark tail fin back, cruising around Universal, and would cruise up and you kind of get in and you cruise around and you kind of talk to him, and he was always very open and cordial and very friendly, and I kept telling him, just like every other actor on the set, I want more lines. I want more to do. Give me, I need something more tangible I can wrap my, talent around. And so finally, I think there'd been 2 or 3 episodes, and I felt like, well, it was my turn. It really was my turn to have an episode with my character as the lead character. And so the existing script was a script with Dirk going down to this planet that we thought was Earth. And, of course, it turned out not to be Earth. But I looked at the script, and that kind of keyed me off. And I said, you know, I really think it's my turn, that I get a chance to go be heroic, go save somebody. So after this meeting, he said, thank you very much. I said, thank you very much. And the next morning, we got a rewrite on the script that we were shooting, and all that had been changed was the name. Not one iota of dialogue was changed. They just took Starbuck and made it Apollo, and Apollo Starbuck. So, so much for that.
That wasn't my episode.
This show, it's amazing to me how one show that shot for, I guess all of you probably think there's about 80 episodes. Every time I tell people it was 1 year, they go, 1 year? I mean, really, there was only 22, 23 episodes 22, shot?
Yeah.
22 episodes shot. And they've chopped it up, diced it, spliced it, put it together in about 1,000 different ways. I know it comes out in 30-minute, formats, and 2-hour formats, and an hour-and-a-half format, and what have you. It's kind of interesting to see sometimes part of one show and part of the 3rd show and the 9th show and the 10th show spliced together. I don't know if you guys can follow the storyline. I certainly cannot.
Every time I see one of those, I'm always fascinated to find out, how's this going to end? Oh, it ends the way it ended in episode 5. It ended. It's really, we don't know either how they managed to do that.
It was an amazing experience, and also I always have to say that science fiction is one of the most amazing genres, just because how can you shoot something 20 years ago, 22 episodes, which normally are relegated to the vaults that nobody ever sees again, because things don't normally find their way into syndication if you shoot only 22 episodes. Normally you have to shoot at least 3 to 5 years worth of episodes. And science fiction somehow has a life of its own, and it's amazing to me that a show that only shot 22 episodes has never practically been off the air. It's been playing around the world. It's constantly been in syndication, just as Star Trek was. And one of the things that really, I guess, bothered me was and I've heard so many judgments about Battlestar Galactica. I've heard so many critiques. And, it's a little unfair, just because if you look at Star Trek, you look at any of the other shows, if you see the first year of those shows, you would say, my God, how did this show stay on the air? Because you realize it takes at least a year as a shakedown cruise to evolve the characters, to evolve the storylines, to really find the niche that show belongs in. And we didn't have that time. We had 1 year. And therefore, I've had people say, it was the worst science fiction show ever. I happen to think that it was one of the best science fiction shows ever.